against an acrylic paint. And there are certain things, there are certain links that we can actually look at. So say, for example, looking into geometrical shapes, nowadays there are conversations around sacred geometry, but actually everything around us is very much in geometric shape. So combining geometry with color, and then combining that with a set of instructions, either they be listening instructions or they be actually doing something on paper. So we're trying to experiment that, and of course we have got this team of psychiatrists and psychologists working very closely with us. One of the things that we have found is that children can link very well to the stories of their life if you, as a parent, tell them the story in your own words. So say, for example, your child has been naughty, rather than going and telling them off and saying, well, you have been very, not very well behaved, you have been very naughty and you shouldn't do this. So we as parents, we have got that kind of thing always going on in our head that we have to tell them off, But instead, if we actually think of a character and actually before the night's sleep comes in, we can actually tell that story, bringing in different characters, and it does actually automatically very much and very well links to the child, and they will see their character in it. So in a way, what you're trying to teach them is how to understand what is right and what is wrong, what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And I think that resilience building has got a lot to do with adaptability. So you've got a new situation, somebody moves their house, somebody moves to school, they go into a completely new environment. How does that child cope, So the resilient child will look like wherever you take them, they are actually going to find a way out. And that's not a God-gifted thing. That's a thing that we can teach. We parents can talk to them, and we have seen this working. So the problem is that we don't have a longitudinal evidence yet, and that's the one that we are trying to create at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Indrani. It's so interesting, really, isn't it? It's a lot for the parents to be creative with the storytelling for the bedtime, rather than telling your children off. And I know my daughter is here somewhere in the audience thinking, right, next time my mom tells me off, I'm going to task her to tell a nice story to me to help me understand. But no, just joking. But thank you very much for that. Really, really interesting thoughts on that. And because we have got a psychiatrist, I thought I'll definitely ask this question. Medication. We talk about medication. We talk about what we call antidepressant or happy pills. Does it really work? Is it really play a role in helping somebody with mental health issues? I'm very keen to understand what's the role of medication in this space, if you may, Dr. Nandini.
As a psychiatrist working in an early intervention and psychosis team, my first admission that I don't prescribe many happy pills. I prescribe antipsychotics, and I prescribe them day in and day out, and when rightly indicated and in the right conditions, and that's not very generalizable to population, it can work miracles, it can change lives. But that's antipsychotics, and not many people will need them. Antidepressants, I will admit, in my experience, are overprescribed. And it comes to that difference between what is unhappiness, sadness, stress, versus what is clinical depression. Now, let me tell you that clinical depression is a real condition. It's not unhappiness gone bad. It's not unhappiness which hasn't been tackled in the early stages. Some people do have a family history of mood disorders, and if they are vulnerable, they will develop clinical depression with or without stress, or with very minor stresses. And they are the kind of people who will benefit most from antidepressants because there is a large chemical component to play. But our general principle would be that, first of all, we have to be very sure that we are dealing with clinical depression. And if it's clinical depression, only in the severe end does antidepressant work best. Mild to moderate depression, sometimes a placebo effect, stops working, gives side effects. That's not the right indication. But in clinical depression, if we are trying to treat only with counseling and psychotherapy, we don't do the patient any good, any benefit. Trying to sit them down and tell them, right, look, all this is great in your life. Why are you feeling this way? Your family love you, etc. They know all that. And in spite of it, they cannot pull out of that sad place. And we've got to understand that. A very, very small proportion of people, but we've got to give them the understanding that you can't just shake them by the shoulders and tell them to take a grip of themselves and a grip of their lives and tell them to pull out of depression. So antidepressants have a role to play in the right place. And in most other situations in psychiatry where medication is indicated, it works best in combination with talking therapies. The general principle is that medication and psychotherapy are not substitutes for each other. One does not take away the need for the other. Each of them have their right place, and there are places where they work best together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for explaining that. Definitely helps a person who is not a medical person. With that, I think here I would like to end the panel discussion.